Welcome to Buffalo After Dark, everybody. It's your Wednesday night uncensored, unfiltered, and unafraid sports show. You still up? This episode of Buffalo After Dark starts now. Welcome to Buffalo After Dark, everybody. It is Wednesday night, March 22nd. We're actually on a Wednesday for a first time in a while.
Yeah,
How's it going? How's it going, man?
I'm good. How are you doing this week, Tom?
Hey, we're doing good and lots of stuff to talk about. So, of course, what we want to do, let's get the misery out of the way first. Let's talk about the Sabres. But, of course, if you want to jump on and chat with us, 929-205-6099, or you can click on that nice little Zoom link and we can see your nice mug on air.
Hell yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then, of course, in the meantime, let's talk hockey because obviously the Sabres have decided to hit an 8-game shit show, which let's get that out of the way first, because obviously the last 8 games, unacceptable. That 10-4 ass kicking by the Dallas Stars, unacceptable. Last night, we get destroyed by the Nashville Predators, who we should have beaten, but we lost 7-3. And literally, I have to wonder, where or how did this team fall apart real quick? Obviously, we know the defense sucks. We know the team can score, but it's like nothing's happening right now.
I have a theory behind this, and that is I think this, and it might be controversial, but I think this team fell apart when Mattias Samuelsson got injured, because that man is like literally ride or die with that defensive core. Because that Samuelsson, who's now apparently a year into his contract, is made of glass, and that's not a good look. And he's here for 7 more years. But I mean, I think there's a possibility that he could still rebound and, get better from here. But the issue is Samuelsson holds everything together. And once he got injured, all hell broke loose. And Dahlin can't stop anything. Yogi Haru sucks dick. They didn't address the defensive pairing. They didn't get a blue liner at the deadline. Instead, they got Jordan Greenway, which I'm still happy about because they needed the grit. Mm-hmm. But people were still mad about the Jacob Chikrin thing. And plus, it wasn't even a guarantee he was going to even fit within the system. So I think the Sabres are going to be very aggressive this summer with goaltending and defense, because that's going to be a big priority factor going into the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, getting Greenway, I like that pick. Good move. We needed the grit. He already dropped the gloves and ended up fighting somebody, so that's a big plus.
And he's got a goal.
Yeah, which is very true. And I will say this: Tage Thompson did drop the gloves last night, so I will give him that. At least he tried something, although that fight didn't last long. But I mean, considering that he's fought, Cousins has fought, Dahlin has fought, Greenway ended up fighting in his first game, which was great to see, along with the first goal. So that's a big plus. But you're absolutely right about Mattias Samuelsson. That defense dies without him being in the lineup. And it's almost like, it's like Samuelsson and Dahlin, great to have. But how did we overlook everybody else on the defense except for them two?
That's a great question, because I tend to ask myself that all the time. Like, how did the Sabres overlook this? Like, why didn't they get some secondary help when they needed it at the deadline? I mean, yeah, you got rid of Asmus, you got rid of Asplund, you got rid of this, you got rid of that, but you're not addressing it. That's the issue. But my thinking process is get the experience now and then push for next season, because people are already pessimistic about next season, saying that there's no fire in this team, which I think they're still young and I think they will get better. But I think with the excuses that Granato's been making, he's basically saying, oh, this team is falling under pressure. Don, you're the fucking head coach. You're the one that's supposed to accommodate the pressure. That's a terrible excuse.
Right. And how can we say that this team is like failing under pressure? I mean, they've had some very big wins this season. I mean, look at some of the teams they've beaten. And that should tell you. They've beaten Tampa Bay. They've beaten Florida. I mean, actually, they beat Tampa twice, at least this season.
And they beat Boston at least once.
Yep. And then they had that great West Coast trip. So, I mean, they ended up taking out Edmonton. They took out Calgary. They took out some very good teams. So they were able to accomplish that. I mean, then you look at other trips that they've had. I mean, they've beaten the Washington Capitals, which they should be playing better than they are, but they've actually beaten them a couple times. they've done well against Pittsburgh, which they're sort of rebuilding at this point. But again, it's like they're beating the good teams when they should be beating the good teams. And they're losing to the crap teams when they shouldn't be losing to the crap teams.
See, that's the thing I hate about this team is they're so competitive against the good teams, and they shit the bed against the really mediocre ones. Like the one against the Islanders a few weeks ago, which obviously I went to that game.
Oh, yeah.
And they were very competitive. And then I think since that game, with not only Samuelson getting injured, but I think the Sabres lost their confidence with the goal, with the stinks kicking motion from that game. And I think that's what really derailed them. Because I think if they won that game, it would have been a completely different format. And since then, they kind of just gave up. Like, that's what I don't understand. You don't give up with like 10 games left of the season, and you keep fighting to make the playoffs.
Right. I mean, and they were in a very good position to where they could easily have gotten that last wild card spot. But then you look at the standings now. I mean, it's up for the taking. Washington's playing better. Pittsburgh is playing better. Philly's playing better. I mean, the teams that really should be in there are finally clawing their way back.
Yeah, somehow.
We're not doing it.
No, and it's unacceptable how they're playing. And I swear to God, if they play the Devils on Friday and they beat them, then maybe it's time to protest that maybe you should really go into the goat head uniforms, because the Sabres have been fucking awful in these royal blue home jerseys. I swear. Royal blue to me is the equivalent of a curse. They can't win games in those colors, but yet when they wear the red and black, they were really damn good on those nights.
Right. Look at it this way. 2006, where they went to the Cup semifinals. 1999, they went to the Cup finals. What's in common? The goat head jersey.
Well, I mean, it's pretty popular even now. I mean, yeah, they're wearing it, I think, 2 more times, and then they're going to bring it back next season, I'm sure. But it's just, it really fucking aggravates me that the team as a whole did not look into this when the jerseys first came out. And they were just like, you know what? Screw the red and black. We're going to do a shitty, fan service by doing royal blue and yellow. I'm like, this is not the 70s. It's 2020.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? 2023, whatever you want to call it. People want the goat heads. I mean, there are some people out there who don't like it, which I'm surprised by because it's really damn popular. But that should honestly be like the full-time uniforms. But people are up to the idea of just making the royal blue the way it is and then making the goat head their alternate.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, now, of course, I grew up with the original Sabres logo. I know it means a lot in this community. The goat head was awesome. The slug sucked. Then, of course, we went back to just a modernized version of the original logo. I don't mind the original logo, but the goat head, though, I absolutely love that jersey. Absolutely loved when they came out with that in '96.
Yeah, there's just something very special about those jerseys.
Yeah, and honestly, the fact that they brought them back and just modernized it a tiny bit, I would totally go for that. In fact, I would be all for going back to that, honestly. I totally would. And then now I wouldn't say go to that reverse retro because I absolutely would never buy one of those reverse retro goat head jerseys, but which I know you got one. But no, and that's just me. I just don't think it works with the color, but I do like the goat head jerseys that came out as the alternate. And I think, you know what? If you're going to be playing well with these, I mean, yeah, it might be a little superstition, but you know what? Hey, roll with them.
Right. But the thing about that is the goat head jerseys make them play better. And they only lost 2 games, one in regulation and one in OT. That's pretty damn impressive as a whole, because every other game they won those jerseys in, they have been tremendous in them all year long. And that just further shows that the Pagulas listened to the fans about saying, bring the goat head back. Now they should listen to them even more and make it a full-time uniform for the next 25 years.
Right. Now, of course, I know that there are going to be people that watch the show and there's people that follow our page that are going to have different opinions on it. And that's fine. I mean, we have some of the purists. I totally get it. I'm not knocking them for it. We have some that love the goat heads. I think nobody loved the slug,
No.
Which me either. I mean, I absolutely thought that was a total waste of time for that logo.
I swear the jerseys for this organization is like communism, because it's like I'm not even
Did I
kidding.
play the communist national anthem again?
No. What I'm saying, it's like this color will work this time. Those weren't the real colors. This time it will work.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. And of course, I mean, at least it got rid of the slug pretty quick, but it'll be interesting to see. Now, it's just a matter of the other thing that I want to address is basically our home record sucks compared to playing on the road. We're actually a road team. We
I
win
don't
more
know.
on the road than we do at home.
It's so backwards.
Right. I don't get it. It's like, what is so is like KeyBank Center home ice cursed or something now, or what?
You know what it is? KeyBank Center is fucking obsolete. They need to desperately get out of there and get a brand new stadium. That's what they need.
Yeah, except the only thing is I don't think they're gonna put money on a new arena again after they almost didn't do it in '96. But
What do you mean? Almost in '96. They already had one though.
well, '96 is when the KeyBank Center opened, but it almost didn't even go through. And the Sabres almost moved.
Well, they're gonna probably get a new stadium either way and move it into downtown Buffalo.
Well, I mean it is technically it is downtown, but at the same time, at the very least, that building needs some major upgrades on it. And I mean, yes, it's not bad for what it is, but I've been to some newer places and I've been to PPG down in Pittsburgh, beautiful arena. And that building that opened, I think like 2011 or 2012. And I went down there the first season it opened. They're already upgrading it. The building is only like 10 or 11 years old.
Yeah, that's the issue. KeyBank Center is almost 30 years old.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be 30 years old in a few years. And the thing is, the KeyBank Center never had like a massive update, which actually, by the way, if you want to check out some different things that we have through Horns and Hooves, you can go to our linked Facebook page, the KeyBank Center Renovation, which we can always put that link up there. And yes, I did throw in some designs for a scoreboard, which actually I think a lot of people may have seen, or if you haven't seen it, it actually looks a lot like the current one, except it's a hell of a lot bigger and in 4K.
Well, if you're going to do a new scoreboard, do what Citi Field just did. Do what the Mets just did. They took a big flat screen TV and they played Mario Kart on it already.
Yeah, but no, it's pretty interesting though, because as part of that, I've actually done a lot of research into different like video control systems and all that stuff, and looked at a lot of different things. And I can tell you, it would be pretty sweet if they were to build what I came up with, and then of course with Donald Ryan of Drive Design, we partnered together, and yeah, I could always show you a picture of it later on, but it actually, we can even show a picture when we post this too. But yeah, think about it this way, man. It looks very similar, except it would be cross swords going through four corners of the scoreboard that can light up, shoot smoke. And basically from there, you'd have 10 screens on there, everything 4K, and you'd have four corner boards so you can see stats and different stuff for fantasy hockey. Add to that a sky ring at the top of the arena, similar to what Washington did a couple years ago, and there you go.
Well, UBS is very, very new. It only came out like 2 seasons ago, but like that's an arena that the Sabres should consider looking at a similar quality to it. But would you ever think maybe the Sabres should move to Amherst if there's room for it?
I can tell you there are practice facilities in Amherst. Well, they actually did practice in Amherst before the Harbor Center was built. Now, I will say the Northtown Center in Amherst, it's a 4-rink arena. I've been there. It's actually a pretty nice arena, and the Buffalo Beauts play there currently. But what I will say, though, is Amherst would probably never go for it. And honestly, a lot of why the Sabres ended up moving to where they were downtown is because they would have room to expand and build on, like we saw with the Harbor Center project 10 years ago. That being said, what I'm thinking is that the KeyBank Center absolutely could get a massive redo. I think that Alumni Plaza would probably get fully enclosed if they do a redo, kind of make like an atrium thing out of it, similar to what Chicago did with the United Center a few years ago, and probably redo like the seating bowl, similar to what MSG did like 10 years ago when they totally tore out the entire inside and rebuilt it in less than 3 years. So who knows? I mean, there's a lot of different ways it could go, but it needs some upgrades though.
Yeah, it desperately. I feel like it just a whole. They need to desperately get out of there, and they need to abandon the royal blue. I know that it has a lot of soft spot for a lot of fans up there. I get it, but the goat head is arguably, and it probably is the most successful logo they've ever had.
Yeah, very true. I mean, they had some great seasons with that.
I mean, outside of 1975, what have the Sabres have done in the last 12 years in the blue and gold? Seriously.
Well, virtually nothing. And there's a lot of blame that can go around that. Now, what I will say, when the Pagulas came in, they originally said their whole existence is to get a Stanley Cup. Have we gotten there yet? No. The rebuild has taken way longer than anybody thought. And a lot of that problem goes to Darcy Regier, because he was such a stubborn asshole who couldn't get his priorities straight. And then, of course, what happens is then you have Tim Murray, who comes in, basically decimates the entire farm system. So we had no talent we could build on.
And he's
It ends
another
up-
stubborn asshole.
Yeah. And then, of course, you go for big name players. Okay, that's well, but it's not cap friendly. And look what happens. We end up having to trade basically everybody out of it. And then, of course, Jason Botterill, who actually the both of us met on Long Island back in 2019, along with Evan Rodriguez that day. Basically, he focused so much on the farm system that he never did anything for the big club.
Yeah, and I remember the press conference he did. He said, we're going to build two teams, one in Buffalo and one in Rochester. But I think in his defense, he did bring in Jeff Skinner, and he has been doing phenomenal since then, except for like 2 years when Ralph Kruger was there. But
Oh, God.
I don't even want to think about it. Granato is from that tree. But my question to you, before we move on, is should Granato be fired?
I don't think you should yet. And here's why. The team has shown, even though the last 8 games have been absolutely brutal, if we look at the season as a whole, they've been at or above 500 for the majority of the season. We can't say that for any other team the past 12 years.
Well, I mean, 2015-16 was the closest to it, I think.
Right. But then Granato wasn't coached back then either. But if we look at how Granato has this team playing, I mean, yes, they're in a bad streak right now. Yes, their defense sucks. Yes, Samuelson is out. Their goaltending can't do anything.
No.
And the fact that they're still, until very recently, were still in the mix for a wild card spot. I mean, Granato did a lot with what he had. I'll give him credit on that.
Absolutely. And you know what? Even if they miss the playoffs, this year is not a bad year to miss it.
No, it really isn't, because this is going to be one of the things we talk about as we get closer to the NHL draft. This is a very good draft class this year. Very good draft class. Very deep draft class.
There's a particular fellow that's singing first overall.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I don't expect the Sabres to get Bedard.
No, me either. Although it would be hilarious if we end up getting the #1 pick in the random lottery.
I mean, I think if they were to somehow get Bedard, it would make up for the fiasco of trying to get McDavid after all those years.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, remember when some people were wearing the McJesus jersey, and then, of course, we settled for Jack Eichel, and then look what happened, and even Vegas can't stand him now?
Well, Vegas could suck a dick, so that's their own fault for bringing in his ego.
Yeah, and they have their own issues to worry about out west, but...
Yeah, they're the best team in the West, but it doesn't mean shit when Jack Eichel's not doing anything for you.
Yeah, exactly. And he's getting maybe less than a point per game or something. I mean, he's not producing. I can tell you that.
Far from it. Jack Eichel at this point is just a poster child for how shit the team was for the last decade or so. You know what I mean? Like, it's like Jack Eichel didn't even want to be in Buffalo. He was just lying to our face the whole time. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh, this is where I want to be. Remember that? You ever see the interview where he openly said at one time, and Tim Murray endorsed it, when he said that he thought he really believed he was better than Connor McDavid?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think you're going to have a little bit of a laugh at what I'm going to show you here, because the fact I happened to find some very interesting stats. And of course, as we know, those stats don't lie.
No, stats in hockey don't lie.
Yeah. Here's the current stats of Jack Eichel, #9 for the Vegas Golden Knights. So he's played 58 games this year. He has 26 goals, 28 assists, and he is actually a +20 this year. But look at his NHL career. And this is where it's brutal. He's a -46 for his entire career. and yet he's the one that's supposed to be better than McJesus, but he's a minus 46.
He's a piece of shit. I'm so glad he's gone.
Yeah, same here. Same here. And I mean, I'm just looking at that and I'm like, okay, so he's played 467 games, but he's a minus 46 and he only has 179 goals. I mean, that's pretty pathetic.
Well, I think if they were to somehow trade him, they would still get a first round pick for him because he is putting over 25 goals.
Well, this year he is.
All I'm saying is that Thompson is having a better year than Jack Eichel, and he's making $3 million less than Eichel.
Yeah, exactly. And Thompson can drop the gloves and fight.
Yeah, that's another thing. I mean, Thompson is a much better person as a leader than Jack Eichel ever was. Because Jack Eichel reminds me of when Mark Messier signed with the Canucks, where he demanded everything: the captaincy, Wayne Mackey's number, never consulted with the parents or the family of his or whatever. He wanted all the players. It's kind of like the equivalent of what Aaron Rodgers is doing to the Jets.
Yeah. Oh, we're gonna get into that in the second half of the show today. But at the same time, I'm looking at it. I'm like, Tage Thompson over Jack Eichel any day. I mean, we've seen what Thompson's done: 40+ goals. He can drop the gloves and fight. He can actually lift the team up, and he's put the team on his back several times and gotten us some wins.
He has, but is he better than Jack Eichel all around? It's too early to tell. But right. Tage has been phenomenal since he got it. Well, the first 3 years, I would say no, he has not been great because then Kruger has misused him so many times, and then Granato comes in, and he's like, all right, we're going to switch you from the wing to the center, and look what happened.
Yeah, he just started tearing it up. He goes back to a natural position.
And it just went like off, like crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that's the bottom line. But I don't know. And the other thing too, before we get to part 2 of the show, is Devon Levi.
Play him. We only have a limited number of games left this season. I'd say you got him on the entry-level contract. As long as you don't play him, I think it's like 10 games. You know, you can still send him back to the minors or whatever you want to do. But let's go look at him, because honestly, I want to see what he can do on the pro ice. And I know that for some goalies, it does take some time, but let's look at the goalie situation. Anderson right now, and we were talking about this before the show even started, literally the Sabres have 3 backup goaltenders right now. Yeah. It's basically where we're at. 3.
Yeah, let's start over with Anderson. He's probably the best one out of the 3, and he's older than Luukkonen. He's older than Comrie.
Yeah, and Anderson has put the team on his back a couple times this season. So Anderson, good goaltender. Is he going to be a long-term answer for number 1? No, he's going to retire. So dude, that's 42. Where we're at. He's like 40.
He's 42. He's not going anywhere. I will genuinely be surprised if he comes back.
Right. I mean, and the team has to be prepared for that. Then, of course, you have Eric Comrie. Get rid of his ass already.
Seriously, he sucks. Put him in Rochester. Let him rot with Malcolm Subban.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason that teams didn't want Eric Comrie. And everyone's like, oh, well, this may be like a chance to see what he can really do. He sucks.
Well, I mean, it is a 2-year deal. It's not like they signed him to a 5-year deal or anything like that.
Right. But let's look at the body of work that Comrie has done. His puck possession sucks, especially when it's right in the crease. He can't handle rebounds for anything. He barely can play the puck. He's giving up the puck in front of the crease. I mean, he just sucks.
Yeah, you want to know what's other thing too that pisses me off? Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. That guy can honestly suck my dick. He honestly could suck my dick because that guy is so fucking useless. You're telling me this was a 2nd round pick in an NHL draft lottery? Are you shitting me?
And I gotta say, I had much higher expectations for him. I really did. And even you remember this too, how when he first came into the combine, and when I got to see him at the Harbor Center 2 years in a row, doing the rookie skate and everything, and he was looking great. I think part of it is injuries that got him, because he has not been the same since he's had those hip injuries and since he's had those surgeries done. He has not even been close to the same. But at the same time, it also doesn't help that we can't put a defense in front of him to make his life easier.
Yeah.
So I think part of it is on the defense because the defense sucks with Samuelson being out, and basically Darlene can only do so much. But then at the same time, UPL has got to know at this point, you've got to have your rebound control in check because there's so many times he's given up the puck and it's burning us,
Yeah.
especially in the front. And you can't be doing that. Now, let's look at the Nashville game last night or the other night. Two situations where you have odd man rushes, two situations where you have breakaways, and he can't stop anything in the shootout.
No, he can't. This is why I despise UPL because for one, I know he's like 24, but I think 24 is old enough to get experience in the NHL to the point where you could be fairly criticized.
Yeah.
But at this
Look
point,
at Ryan Miller, look at Hasek, look at Baran, all at the same age.
yeah, they were at that time when they all came up. Well, Buron was always a backup goalie before Ryan Miller got there. You know what I mean?
True.
Like
but
what's
he
Ryan?
also played multiple games after Hasek retired before Miller was the number one. So I mean, we got a good look at him, and then of course look at some of the other goaltenders we've had, such as of course we know who's in Boston now.
Fucking Linus Ullmark, man.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny? People would have still said if you gave the man 6 years, $36 million to stay with the team, people would have still said, "Oh, Kevin Adams is an amateur GM."
Well, Ullmark, like for all intents and purposes, did not deserve that much money as far as how he was playing here. But then look at the team in front of him.
Well, he's on the Boston Bruins. I mean, they kind of explain.
Yeah, and he's looking like he's lights out. But then the Boston Bruins are so stacked that Ullmark doesn't have to do anything half the time.
No, and the funny thing is too, is Ullmark is even a front runner for the Vezina Trophy this year.
Oh my God!
Yeah, really think about that.
That if he was not on the Bruins, there would be no conversation of a Vezina Trophy.
Agree. And he also went to the fucking All-Star game this year.
Which would have never happened if he was still here. More than likely.
What comes around goes around, right?
Yeah. But
I will say,
yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say was all in all, if Devon Levi goes like 1-5, I'm gonna be like, you know what? I can't be too angry at him because he's only 21 and he's only gonna get better from here on in. And Kevin Adams, I assure you, knows that he's got to have to work on the defense in the offseason because that's the thing that most GMs in the past have failed to do is address the defense. They've been looking for a blue liner since like the days of Teppo Newman and Alexei Zhitnik, Yaroslav Spacek, and etc.
Right. Defense has got to be a huge focus because you can't win games if you have a crap defense, and that's where we're at.
Yeah, and it's getting so bad that the Sabres themselves, according to Chad Dynamicus, he was basically saying that like the Sabres team in general, they're saying that UPL is so bad that they're talking about trading him this year.
I'd say do it before his value tanks even more.
Yeah, really. I mean, Devon Levi is pretty much looked at as the savior of this organization. Like, I don't want to get into the whole hype of Devon Levi by specifically saying, yeah, let's just throw him into the Wolves with no defense whatsoever. But I want them to focus on developing him. That's the big factor. Because goalies take a while to develop. It's not like a defenseman or a forward, and you have the system in play, and then it just derails.
Very true. Give him a good look. You only have like how many games left? Less than 20. Give him some time in the crease. Have him split the crease with UPL. Give him some time in there. Let him get used to the game speed of the NHL because it's going to be a lot different than what you see in the AHL. It's a lot different than what you see in the ECHL, and it's a lot different than what you see in the NCAA.
Yeah,
give him some time.
And this guy won the Mike Richter Award twice.
Right. So obviously he should be able to do something. But give him some time, let him get used to the pro game, and then we can go from there. But I think, now's the time, especially since the playoffs are pretty much out of the question. Give him some time in the crease. You have nothing to lose.
Exactly. Is it selfish for me to say I want him to play against the Islanders because I'm going to the game on Saturday?
No, in fact, I'd love to see him play against them, honestly.
It would be a very, very good test for Devon Levi.
Absolutely. Islanders are a good team. So,
My like for me, my biggest thing is I don't mind the Sabres losing in that game, but what I do mind is having no defense whatsoever and they get blown out.
right. Yeah, let's not relive that Dallas game because that was an absolute shit show to watch that.
You want to know something? You want to know how many goals the Sabres have given up in the last 3 games?
Yeah, it's absolutely pathetic.
Yeah, you want to know the estimated amount?
Yeah, I'd have to say it's over 20.
Yeah, exactly. They've given up 19 goals. And how many have they put the puck in the net? 5.
Yeah, you ain't winning games that way.
No, you are not.
Especially when you had like a
No,
plus
you are not.
15 or plus 16 goal differential. You sure as hell don't have that now.
It's so bullshit, honestly.
Yeah, it is. But before we go into last thing before we go into the second half, so we got 2 games on the docket tonight. So right now with 144 left, Colorado and Pittsburgh are tied at nothing, and the late cap is going to be Edmonton and Arizona out west at 10:30 Eastern time, and that'll be on both games on TNT.
Meh.
Yeah, exactly. So that being said, we're going to wrap up the first half. Second half of Buffalo After Dark comes up in just a moment. So stay with us. Welcome to Buffalo After Dark, everybody. It's your Wednesday night uncensored, unfiltered, and unafraid sports show. You still up? This episode of Buffalo After Dark starts now. All right, welcome back to part 2 of Buffalo After Dark. Of course, you got the 2 of us here. We may have some people come in, who knows? But of course, we also have a Facebook chat live and running. So if you want to drop us a line, or if you want to jump on and give us a call, 92920560099. Let's take the last half of the show. Let's go over some football. And of course, the big things that we're talking about right now, Bills free agency, because there have been some moves made, especially in the past week. But the big one that a lot of people are talking about, and there's a lot of rumors out there right now, picture a wide receiver core with DeAndre Hopkins and Stephon Diggs.
Jesus Christ.
Oh my God, I would love that.
Yeah, I think that's going to give the coordinators nightmares.
Yeah, if you thought Tyreek Hill and the Miami wide receiver core was good, just picture if you get Diggs and DeAndre Hopkins together.
Not to mention, you also got Trent Sherfield from the Dolphins not too long ago.
Yep. And you still have Gabe Davis.
And you still have Gabe Davis. At this point, I think the Bills are going to keep him, but who knows? Who honestly knows? I mean, it could happen that they might trade him, but I don't think so.
Yeah, but I will tell you, if they land DHop, oh my God, next season will be very, very interesting.
Well, yeah. I mean, considering all the drama that's been going on in the last 2 weeks almost with Aaron Rodgers and say, I have every intention to play for the New York Jets.
Yeah, this deal still hasn't been signed yet. We'll talk about that in a bit. But I just got to say, though, if the Bills can land him, and one of the rumors that was out there, someone was tweeting and they basically ended up mentioning a 3rd rounder and Ed Oliver for DeAndre Hopkins. If that were to actually happen, that's a freaking steal.
It would be for that value. Absolutely. And I think Hopkins is 32.
Mm-hmm.
He's an old man, but still for a wide receiver, that's still pretty damn good.
Yeah. And to get rid of Ed Oliver, if that's the case, Oliver hasn't proven himself. So, and the fact that he wants all this money, it's not going to happen. So, that being said, use him as trade bait.
Like, here's the thing I'm noticing, and that is Ed Oliver is acting like a man that's been notified that he's on the trade block. But let's be honest, are we really wrong here?
No,
Because he's
no.
been making some cryptic messages saying, I enjoyed my time here or something like that. And then a lot of people are just convinced that Ed Oliver is going to get traded.
Right. And if he does, hey, I don't mind the fact that we're getting rid of him.
No,
I really don't mind it. He hasn't proven much. It's like, look at when we had Cody Ford and we brought him in, we drafted him, and he did absolutely nothing. And then now he's only like on a 1-year deal.
yeah, with the Bengals of all people.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of weird to say. And it's funny because a week ago we were talking about free agency, about how we had almost a 2-hour show last week. And then yet now we're subtracting the number because it's kind of tied down a bit. But there were still some names that are thrown out there, of course. And then some trades happen in play as well. But the one player I want to really discuss, because I think it's important, is Damian Harris. He's been brought up a lot lately, and he signed a 1-year deal worth $1.7 million. That's not just robbing the bank. That's a highway robbery, especially for a running back.
Seriously. And especially, so he has one bad season where he's injured. But look at what he did for the New England Patriots the year before. 15 touchdowns on his own and almost 1,000 yards.
Yeah, I think if he didn't get injured, I think he would have still been on the team.
Exactly. So it's like, thanks, New England. You just gave us an actual good running back that we can use with Cook. And then, of course, with Nyheim Hines restructuring, I mean, now you've got 3 good running backs that you can work with. I mean, James Cook started to emerge. We know Nyheim Hines has speed. We just have to utilize him properly. And we know Damian Harris can fly. So
Yeah.
there you go. Now we actually have to put in our run game and stop being a pass-heavy offense.
Which I think now that if they were to get Hopkins, it will make the offense even stronger. Because I think the team as a whole has gotten a lot better. And I think it's also worth mentioning that Isaiah McKenzie also got released. So his
Good.
replacement is Deontay Hardy.
And you know what? And I'm fine with that because honestly, look at how many times McKenzie dropped balls last season and the season before that. I mean, I know, yes, a lot of people consider him a fan favorite, but let's be honest. When you look at Gabe Davis and how he emerged over Isaiah McKenzie, it was a no-brainer. Cut McKenzie.
Well, I always said to you, and what do I always say to you, Tom, off the air? I always preach about it. You know what it is?
Yeah, go ahead and tell him.
Don't ever get attached to players.
Yeah, and that's very true.
Because what happens is when you get attached, you get very distraught emotionally that you like say to yourself, I hate this team for trading my favorite player. I'm like, I look at it, I'm like, when people say to me, who's your favorite player? And I'm like, I don't really have a favorite player, but because a lot of times things could change in one fell swoop. Like you could get yourself like, and I had this mistake a few times in my life, and I think we've all made that mistake where a player we think will stay for a long time, and yet leaves in a couple of years. Because my wife really wanted an Ed Oliver jersey when we were on our way to New England.
I remember
we
that.
got it. Yeah, or no, it was before Kansas City. Sorry. So we got the Ed Oliver jersey that she really wanted, and now they're talking about trading him. So that to me is a good reminder of why I don't invest into players' jerseys.
Yeah. And it's a very true statement. But, you know, that being said, I mean, with McKenzie being out of here, that was a good move that, you know, with cutting him and just not going forward because A, he was going to affect the salary cap. B, he can't catch the balls consistently. And C, we had better wide receiver options anyways. So then the fact that we end up bringing in Deontay Hardy, 2-year deal worth up to $13 million with 9.5 in base salary and only $5 million guaranteed. That's a pretty cap friendly contract there. And
I mean, it is.
And he should be. And plus, we can use him as a return man. So there you go. You have him being able to be utilized in that way. We have Nyheim Hines, who ended up running 2 touchdowns on a return in that game earlier this season. So there you go. You got a dual purpose threat, which actually helps. But then there were some other deals that ended up coming out also. Of course, I mean, we have our backup QB, Kyle Allen, which we talked a little bit about last week. Harris was the big one. I mean, Trent Sherfield, we got him on a 1-year deal as another wide receiver. So there you go. You have another option you can go to, basically alongside Gabe Davis. So we're really not in a bad spot at this point. And I very highly doubt that we're going to resign Beasley. I mean, that is just more just get him in for the playoffs, but who knows what's going to happen there. But at the same time, I mean, we have who we have at this point. So I will say, not a bad deal, not bad deals by Brandon Bean at all.
No,
when it comes to that.
Not at all. But I will say this too, and that is a lot of people were specifically in Miami, a lot of players were very upset that Trent Sherfield left Miami to go play for the Bills. And you know what's funny? Tyreek Hill was once asked, Tyreek, who's the best receiver in the league outside of yourself? You know who he said? Trent Sherfield. He said Trent Sherfield was the second best wide receiver behind him. And this was when he was on the 49ers.
Good, them cocky motherfuckers deserve to lose him.
Well, the cocky little motherfuckers on the team now. So
right, exactly. And I meant that as a dig to the Miami fans because I'm absolutely sick and tired of their crap.
Well, the Dolphins are such a mess, honestly, because they're getting better, but adding Jalen Ramsey doesn't automatically make you a Super Bowl contender. Right. Because there are players on that team that are good, but they're taking some serious risks with Tua's health, and then bringing in Jalen Ramsey, who they only have 2 years of lockup for. You know what I mean? Like they only have 2 years max of Jalen Ramsey's contract, and they're gonna lose. And they just lost Trent Sherfield to the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, so, and they were so sure that they were gonna get Jordan Poyer that never happens. And the Miami fans are so butthurt over that. And it was beautiful listening to Poyer's interview on McAfee's show, where basically is like, oh yeah, the Miami fans, they want him so bad. They were so fucking pissed when they lost out.
They were so ready to point fingers at Bills Mafia if Jordan Poyer were to leave. But I will say this: Jordan Poyer is a more loyal human being to this team than Tremaine Edmonds. That's a hot take.
And I give him a lot of credit. He took a very cap-friendly deal. I mean, really cap-friendly deal to stay here. And he wants to retire here, which is really cool.
I think he's going to retire a Bill either way. I think because he knows that outside of Buffalo, he would have no job in the NFL. And because he came in I remember when he was first in the league, he came in as a practice squad player for the Eagles, and then he was cut, gets picked up by the Browns. And then in 2017, when McDermott first came to Buffalo, they bring in Jordan Poyer. And I'm like thinking, oh, okay, I've never heard of this guy. Let's see what he does. And all of a sudden, he's been
the best safety from day one.
Yeah, and then Micah Hyde too. I mean, those two were like hands down the best 1-2 punch in the league at the time.
And they're going to be playing together again, so it's really nice to see them come back. So great to see that. Milano gets extended, which he's going to be here another 2 years. So that was great to see. So we've got him through 2026 actually. So that's a big plus. Sam Martin had a good year as our punter after the whole Ariza scandal. So we've got him for a 3-year deal, and he earned it. He punted very well when we needed him, and he was definitely an upgrade over the ex-Miami punter.
Matt Hawk sucked.
Yeah, he does.
Speaking of suck, the Jets are so desperate for a punter, they're trying to trade Braden Mann.
Oh my God.
They're so desperate, and they know it because they're so bad, Tom, that they went and I got Thomas Morstead. I swear to God, I'm not even exaggerating.
I was gonna say, if Luffy was listening, did Luffy send the Jets like some type of like really like lace weed that like totally clouded their judgment and made them think like all these things that are totally I don't know how you describe it, totally insane?
It's an absolute fucking turmoil in the Meadowlands right now because it's getting so bad with the whole Aaron Rodgers thing. Ever since Aaron Rodgers said, give me my attention I want so bad, I want to go and play with the Jets. I have every intention to play for the Jets. And then this week, because he's a fucking prima donna, he's a diva, as we all know, pretty much came out and basically said, "Yeah, me and OBJ have been talking about playing in New York for a while." I'm like, dude, shut the fuck up. Because if anything, the Jets are saying we're not giving up our first round pick, and we're sure as hell not giving up our second. And the Packers are like, no, give us a first round pick and we'll give you Aaron Rodgers. So,
Yeah.
so it's almost like, and again, I used this analogy last week and I'll use it again. Is watching this whole thing with Aaron Rodgers and with the Packers and the Jets is like watching two parents getting divorced and fighting over custody of the kids.
Yep.
That's literally
And
the analogy I use.
you cannot blame the Packers for wanting a ransom for Aaron Rodgers. You can't blame them for that.
And you know what, too? A lot of people were saying, well, fuck the Packers, give them a low ball, and then Aaron Rodgers will be a Jet. This is why, kids, you don't put your eggs in one basket. And the Jets are doing exactly that. And Lamar Jackson just said the other day, as of this video, yesterday, he said, I'm done with the Ravens. And now people are like, what's going to happen with Lamar Jackson? And the Colts and the Vikings are the front runners to get Lamar Jackson. And I'm like thinking to myself, well, what about the Jets? They're available, but they're too naive and they want to get fucking Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. And honestly, Lamar Jackson would probably be a good fit for the Jets, in all honesty. I mean, he would help boost their running game quite a bit also. But then you look at what the Colts need and you look at what the Vikings need. And I mean, we all know Kirk Cousins is not the answer for the Vikings long term. He definitely is not. Now, granted, he's actually played better since being traded out of Washington, but at the same time, he is not a long term answer. At the same now in the same thing, the Colts desperately need a QB because, of course, they ended up cutting Matt Ryan. Philip Rivers only lasted a short time before that. And then, of course, you had Andrew Luck, who had to retire because basically Irsay and everybody couldn't even put a freaking offensive line around him, and he got murdered on every single play.
You could almost say the same thing now.
Yeah, it's still happening. But let's look at what the Jets did real quick, because I mean, there was a notable signing where they did decide to get wide receiver McCole Hardman, which is a 1-year deal worth up to $6.5 million. That was reported. I mean, we also ended up talking about Alan Lazard signing a 4-year deal. Wes Schweitzer, offensive guard, ended up signing a contract. Solomon Thomas re-signed. So, I mean, that helps them. Linebacker Quincy Williams re-signed. Chuck Clark, which we talked about last week, which was actually a pretty good trade for the Jets. And then Zerline, and then, of course, Morstead, which he's like a total waste of space.
I'm just saying, this whole thing is a fucking fiasco. Because let's be honest with ourselves here. Outside of Lazard and Hartman, what have the Jets done?
Nothing.
Nothing. Because you know what it is? They're so miserable. Like, they are so miserable and they are so desperate for a quarterback that they're willing to go to war with the Packers. And it's getting so ugly, Tom, that Packers fans themselves are turning off and unsubscribing to the Pat McAfee show. I'm not kidding.
Yeah, it's like literally, okay, so as pretty much everybody knows who's watched us for any length of time, you know, especially, I want to say it's been at least the last 6 months, we feature McAfee's show on our page every afternoon, except for when he was gone for like 2 weeks. But when Aaron Rodgers made the announcement that his intention was to play for the Jets, he had like almost 600,000 people watching. Right after Aaron Rodgers left the show for the day, it drops down to his usual 45 to 50,000 people watching.
It's so ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, it was hyped up, which, of course, you know, and I will say McAfee is pretty interesting to listen to. He does have some interesting takes and interesting guests on there, which apparently Adam Pac-Man Jones is a new host on this show. So he ended up landing him. And then, of course, he's got AJ Hawk and he's had AQ Shipley on there. Chuck Pagano shows up and does some like coaching and does like some of the scenarios and stuff like that. And of course, he's got his own crew on there, which is really cool. He's got that. And then, Darius Butler's on there too, so he's got some cool people on there. But at the same time, it's like, and Aaron Rodgers Tuesday they have, so Aaron Rodgers is actually a co-host on there also. But at the same time, it's like, okay, we know Aaron Rodgers wants out. He's wanted out of Green Bay for so long. It's like, New York Jets, you know Green Bay is going to want a ransom. Just give them what the hell they want and be done with it at this point.
But the problem is they think that the Packers don't deserve a first round pick because of his age.
Well, look at what Brady. Well, actually, Brady was free agency. I was gonna say for a moment there, if it was an actual trade, that'd be different. But Tom Brady would have gotten a first round pick if it was a different scenario.
You know what's funny? There was an article that came out today about the Jets, and I'm saying to myself, you have got to be shitting me. And I want to find it and read the headline to you because it is so pathetic. And it pretty much sums up the whole argument with the Jets and the Packers. There was something about New Yorkers acting tough or something like that. Like I'm trying to find it. Here it is. I found it. So the article says in quote, it's loading. I'm gonna read this to you. This is from Pro Football Talk. I'll send you the article yourself.
Sure.
It says in quote, in dealing with the Packers, it's time for the Jets to act like New Yorkers. It's been a week since Aaron Rodgers made a public plea for the Packers to be reasonable in their expectations from the Jets. In the past 7 days, neither team has budged because reportedly it's been said that the two teams have pretty much embarrassed and nothing has progressed. So the Packers, as Rodgers said, are quote, are digging in their heels, and the Packers, as we have reported, are content to wait until the draft to do a deal. And the Packers, as personally written by Mike Florio, believes that have allowed the situation to become petty and personal. It's not personal. It's strictly business, and it's time for the Jets to take the page from the Marty Lyons playbook and give the Packers the business. And these are the Jets, technically, and Jersey Jets, and they should start demonstrating some of the attitude that those in their fan base would exhibit when dealing with difficult people in challenging situations. And the Jets need to go on the offense here, and they perhaps need to be a little offensive, and they need to tell the Packers how it's going to be. Why do you think Packers CEO Mark Murphy has suddenly opted zipping? Because they know they're running a grip by acting like they have an upper hand, and they don't. And they owe Rodgers nearly $60 million guaranteed next season. And if they don't trade him by week one, his $58.3 million cap hit will become
Yep.
available. So that will relieve the money. And amazingly, there are smart and supposedly people who think the Packers actually have the leverage here, and much of the media has fallen in line with that mindset.
In all reality, the Jets can do whatever they want in this case. And they Jets have a lot of leverage that Green Bay fans don't think they have.
Well, here's the thing. The idea is, though, Tom, is that the Packers have the upper hand is ludicrous, and the Jets don't need Rodgers before the start of camp, and he already knows the offense, and the Packers are stuck with nearly $60 million unless he retires or is traded, and no one will trade for him if he wants to play for the Jets.
Right. Right. So now I guess the question is if it holds out a lot longer, does Aaron Rodgers truly come back and play another season?
No.
Which, good job, Jets. You got yourself stuck with Nate Hackett.
Well, here's the thing, though. It's either the Jets or he retires. Because, again, if he's not on the Jets by the start of the season, they owe him nearly $60 million.
Oh, my God. And the Jets will still be stuck with Hackett.
And the problem with this, too, is the Jets are bending the knee. They paid $44 million for Lazard. They pretty much got rid of Elijah Moore, who they traded to the Browns earlier today to make room for McCole Hardman. And it's going to get worse because they're going to cut Corey Davis and they're going to bring in possibly OBJ. Then the question is, if you're going to try to bring in Aaron Rodgers and OBJ, how are you going to afford all these guys? You need the money.
Yeah.
And again, when you have a 40-year-old quarterback or a 39-year-old quarterback telling you who to get and the Jets bend the knee, this is a Jets problem. This is why I almost literally do not take them seriously because they're saying, yeah, we're going to get Aaron Rodgers. And yet he's not even on the team technically.
Right. Exactly. And he may not even be on the team come opening day.
If he is not on the Jets by that point, I will laugh my ass off.
Yeah, same here. Well, yeah, and of course we'll have to troll the Jets on the show.
Yeah, and it's like, why didn't the Packers ask for Elijah Moore?
They could have easily thrown that in there. Could have thrown that in there.
And he would have been a good weapon for Jordan Love.
Yeah. Where's Elijah Moore now?
Elijah Moore is now on the Browns.
Yep.
Yeah, so Elijah Moore is now in Cleveland, and he's going to be catching passes from Deshaun Watson.
And that's if Deshaun Watson actually can do something this year.
I don't know. And the thing about the Jets is now they have back-to-back first-round picks. I mean, not first-round picks. Sorry, they have back-to-back second-round picks, 42 and 43.
Which That's not a bad situation because you can get good players at 42 and 43. We've seen that.
Some people think that the Jets will use one of those two picks in a deal for Aaron Rodgers.
I mean, they'll probably have to.
Well, I mean, if you're trying to get Aaron Rodgers to come play for this pathetic franchise, I think the pressure now falls on the Jets if they get Rodgers, because now their aspirations to win the Super Bowl and win the AFC East is now really up in the air.
Yeah, very true. And especially when you look at the Bills strengthening their team and when you look at Miami strengthening their team, I mean, the Jets have to do something at some point. So that's what we got to do. And our friend Trevor says hi. He is in the chat. So he actually says he's at the gym, can't join, but says go Bandits. And he says Buffalo Bandits. He's actually a big lacrosse fan. Bandits are 10-3, and he is predicting them possibly getting their 5th championship.
I don't know dick about lacrosse. I'm sorry.
I've gone to a Bandits game once. I enjoyed it. It is actually pretty fun to watch. I mean, I unfortunately don't watch it more, but Bandits quietly, they have a very good team, and they're one of the league leaders in attendance, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I have not once been to a New York Riptide game yet.
I'd say check them out sometime. They're actually pretty cheap to go to.
Yeah, but the thing is, they play at the Coliseum, not at UBS.
Right.
That's the thing.
Yeah. But no, I mean, but no, good to hear from him. And actually, I was gonna say, Trevor, if you get a chance to jump on sometime, we'd love to catch up and have you on here. So, and especially like talk about the Colts football for you too. So, but really, with that being said, we're gonna close out the show on one other thing. And your cousin Matt Frevola in the UFC has a pretty good fight coming up against Drew Dober.
Yeah, so my cousin Matt Frevola, for those who don't know, is a featherweight fighter in the UFC. He's in the lightweight division, and he's supposed to be fighting on May 6th in London against Drew Dober, who is at the time of this video is the 15th ranked lightweight fighter in the world. So Matt Frevola versus Drew Dober in London on May 6th at UFC 286. So check it out when you get a chance, guys. And I'm really excited about that fight.
Awesome and good stuff. And you never know. He may end up on the show at some point, depending on how things go. So
He's so busy. I've actually tried to get him on the show, and it's just like, hey, I'm wishing I'm just training, man. I mean, he's not a
no, I
jerk. He's
got you.
just saying, I'm busy with, training and all, training and all that stuff, and just doing what I can to be a better fighter every day.
Well, that's what you got to do. I mean, especially when you get in the UFC. I mean, that's like the promised land for ultimate fighting. So you got to do what you got to do, and you got to keep training and all that. But no, good stuff for him though. Hopefully it all goes well and all that. So with that, I mean, isn't it funny how quick an hour goes on here?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's good stuff. So of course, Trevor, good to hear you again as well. Definitely jump on pretty soon. Really last minute thing I'm going to throw in, and then we'll wrap up for the night. So we are looking for someone to join us. So we are looking for some additional co-hosts and contributors. So of course, if you are interested and you want to possibly join us here on the air, let us know. Drop us a line in the comments or reach out to us. We're looking for one or two more people. It's not going to affect who we already have, but we want to expand a little bit.
Yeah, because it's been kind of tough lately because we want to record on Wednesdays, and yet we have to sometimes push the show back because we don't have enough people or support to really get that going. So we're trying to expand our little team here.
Yeah.
So if you're interested, give us a call, message myself or Tom Wojcik, and then we'll give you guys a round and see what you're capable of, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fun thing is, you don't have to have a previous podcast experience really, as long as you know about sports and you can talk about sports. And hey, if you're a fun person to be around and you can make us laugh and all that fun stuff, even better. Yeah, it's all good. But the nice thing is we can show you a lot of the ropes on what we do and how we do things and all that fun stuff. So, if it's something where you thought about it and you haven't really wanted to go for it just because of the fact that you think that not doing it previously is gonna keep you from moving forward, don't think that way. Come join us. We're a fun group to be around, and certainly we'll put the time in, and we'll invest wherever needed.
For sure.
Yeah, so with that, we've pretty much gone the full hour. So anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
Yeah, I think that's about it. Oh, we actually do have something coming up, and it's from Dov Kleiman. He just said DeAndre Hopkins is not a consideration. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. Dov Kleiman is saying an update quote that DeAndre Hopkins isn't a consideration for the Patriots at this point. So the Browns are out, the Patriots are out, the Cowboys are out. He's running out of options here,
Yeah, pretty much one of the only options left is here with the Bills.
or the Chiefs.
Oh God, if the Chiefs get them, they're even more stacked.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah,
It's getting
please come here to Buffalo.
That'd be great if he does.
Yes, indeed. So we'll keep an eye on that. Of course, we've been updating a lot of things on our Twitter as well as different things have come out. So certainly keep and follow us on there as well. But it's another fun week. So with that being said, we're gonna call it a night. So keep it here. We'll have your news. But until next week, take care of yourselves and each other. We'll see you next time.
Yes, you will. See you later.